Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the BlackUSA.News morning show. We have with us the one, the only, former state senator Barbara Robinson. How are you?
Fantastic, fantastic.
You looking like $1,000,000.
And I'm feeling like $20 million.
I want to know how many millions you really got. Okay, so anyway,
I'm
you
doing good.
how have you been?
I've been fantastic. This is the first time in my life that I've been able to do me. I call this the my era. You know, this is my fourth retirement. I retired from the court system. I retired from a business that I ran for over 30 years, about 35 years. Fantastic. I retired from the Maryland General Assembly, and I'm now in my own retirement. I don't think I'll ever really retire
Of course
because now
not.
I got a chance to do what I've always wanted to do and never could, and that's called my own shots. You know,
You
at
always be
home.
able to get shot. Where you from?
I'm from Alabama. I was born in Alabama and I went to school in Georgia. And that's what that book, when I talk about,
What book? We ain't even get to the book yet.
oh, well, this book, the Through It All. And that's when I talk about from the outhouse to the state house. The outhouse is from Alabama.
What's an outhouse?
I know folks don't know what an outhouse is.
That's
That's
when
when
you had a bathroom in the backyard.
that's the bathroom in the backyard when you don't have plumbing in your house.
They
Uh,
used to have them on Edding Street. Edding used to have outhouses.
oh yeah,
In Baltimore, they have houses that had outhouses.
I
You know,
didn't.
this is what, 2021. We forget just a country we are.
Yeah, I didn't have plumbing in my house until I got to college. You know, didn't have hot and cold running water, refrigerator, uh, bathtub,
So y'all kept your food cold literally with what was called an ice box.
and an ice box. And my sister and I, here's a copy of an outhouse. I mean, a picture of an outhouse. And wait a minute, that's an outhouse. You know, in one of my bathrooms in my den, I have a whole wall.
I was gonna say, I know you ain't got an outhouse in the den. Okay, come on.
I have a whole wall of pictures of outhouses.
Oh,
When I was one of my books, I was going to Tennessee um, for a speaking engagement and book signing, and we were driving around the hills of Tennessee, and we came across this house that sat on the hill, and there was a sign in the yard that she sold dolls, home handmade dolls. So we stopped and went in, and this woman had a room full of nothing but beautiful dolls that she had made. And she was so nice. She even baked brownies for us. And she had all of this collection of outhouses, these pictures. So I made her a price. I said, how much would you charge me? I want to buy them all. And so she did. I bought every one of them and I brought them back. And they reminded me of my childhood. So on one of my walls in one of my bathrooms in my den, I have that whole wall covered with pictures of outhouses.
you know, my ex-wife's mother used to collect these black women cookie jars. I'm sure you've seen them.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I have a collection of elephants. I'm AKA, but I collect elephants. Um,
It's a
and
wonder they didn't kick you out.
I know, I know. I have elephants from all around the world. where I've traveled.
Yeah,
And
you're looking at my little elephant.
you looking at what?
My little elephant. I gave one of them away. This lady came in here. She worked for the city. Oh, I love elephants. There go my elephant going out the door.
I
But
have.
you know, you get by giving. I
Yes.
swear to me.
Well, I've given a lot away, but I still have almost 1,000, really.
My daddy said this: with a closed hand, nothing gets in, nothing gets out. With an open hand, there are endless possibilities. The moral to the story is help somebody. You can't grab a blessing holding on to some crumbs.
That's true. That's true. I have a great collection of black memorabilia as well. I have several etages uh, filled with that. I told my daughter, I said, when it's my homegoing time, there are several cabinets in there that I have, some filled with trophies that I've been blessed to have been awarded over the years, and plaques. Some's filled with elephants, some filled with AKA, artifacts. Uh, some, as I said, black memorabilia. I do a lot of collection, and they're really really nice. I even have a collection of coins. Uh, so when I leave, and what I've done, I've written. You remember George Mitchell? It kind of disturbed me when he passed, and it was difficult with people actually getting his obituary together. No one single person knew everything about him, and so I didn't want that when I go. So what I have done, I've written my own obituary, and I've put it in a place where I have my other important papers. And I said, this is what I want you guys to say about me at my homegoing party. I don't want a funeral, homegoing party, because I've lived one heck of a life,
You ain't
and I've
finished
enjoyed
anything.
every minute of it.
You act like you're going somewhere. Seriously, stop
No,
that
I
now.
ain't going nowhere. I just want to be prepared when I do go. And that's, people don't want to talk about that because death is inevitable. We're all going. We don't know.
My daddy was Undertaker. I know.
Okay, so I want to be prepared. I want to go my way.
I got a bunch of funeral jokes. I just say I want to talk about your book.
I want to do it my way. I told you this is my era. This
I
is my
ain't finished
time.
fussing with you yet. What
You
made
said
you write this book?
what made me write this book?
Yeah, the most recent one.
Well, I wanted
You got like how many? 14 books?
11 so far. 8 published. And number 9 will be coming out the last of this year, before the last of this year.
I don't like y'all people with more than 5 books because y'all be like, yeah, I got 12, 13 books. Yeah, I just finished number 2 the other night, 2 nights ago. Number 2.
Number 2. Well, you're on your road to great writing. You're on your road to do number 20 and 30 and whatever. And I think you'll do at least 25 before you leave this world.
Why is that important?
Why is the number important? It's not important.
Writing books. Why is that important?
Because you're leaving a legacy. You're leaving in writing what you didn't say verbally. Words are gone, but your books, your writing, they always stay. One of the things that I had said to somebody, I'm doing a podcast for widows and widowers in Nigeria, Christian widows and widowers in Nigeria. And when I was talking to them about coming on with my podcast, I want to bring some other people on to talk. But when I go back and I look at in my computer, I have so much material. I'm a writer, and I've been writing since I was in the 7th grade. As a matter of fact, I wrote my first play when I was in the 8th grade.
What was the play?
It was a play about a kid who nobody liked because that person didn't like herself, because she had come from a home that she didn't feel loved, and because she was, it was almost real life, really. And I
Sound like
guess,
the streets of Baltimore.
and I guess I was reaching out even in the 7th grade, but nobody heard me. You know,
The
nobody.
universe heard you, Miss Barbara.
I'm sorry.
The universe heard you.
You are absolutely right, because every book that I have written, um, it talks about my journey. As a matter of fact, I have 3 on Amazon that they have put in what they call moments in time, and I promised 6 copies. So I have 3 so far in that moments in time series. Uh, and I've written books about my life because I want people to understand that it doesn't matter where you came from, it's where you're going that makes a difference. And nobody can define your life but you. When I was in school, my 7th grade teacher told me that I would never graduate from high school. And she said, I don't think that you'll ever make it to the 12th grade.
Was this a white woman?
Nope, Black woman, Miss Hurt. I'll never forget it.
She was very hurtful.
She really was.
She shouldn't
But
have been allowed to be a teacher.
she was telling me that not because I was dumb, because I was a straight A student. She was telling me that because of my home life, because of my stepfather and my mother and I mean people in the neighborhood.
She was wrong, Miss Barbara.
Of course she was, because when I spoke on Honor Day, I had her sitting on the front row. And I wanted her to know that she did not define who Barbara Cofield at that time, who Barbara Cofield was. Yeah, she was dead wrong.
You don't say that to a child.
No, you don't. But she did. She did. And so many young people are getting that now from adults. They're saying that you'll never amount to anything. And they believe that. They internalize that.
Well, what if some of their mothers say, you just like your father? Your father ain't S-H-I-T.
And you won't be either. You're right. So many people, but I wasn't with my father. I was with my stepfather. And if I would mention my real father's name in my house, then my stepfather would beat me. It was a very,
That wasn't nice either.
my first book, And Still I Cry, talks about all of that tumultuous past of growing up, in the South, or growing up in that household. But I think that made me who I am, because it's like, how dare you try to define me? How dare you say what I can and cannot do? The fact that it took 18 years for me to get my undergraduate degree does not define who I am.
18 years?
18 years it took me to get my undergraduate degree.
Okay, what were you doing?
In the streets.
Oh, me too. But I was only 13 years.
I was in the streets hanging on Merlin, Saratoga, and smoking reefer and drinking syrup and
You must have been a real reefer smoker, because my mother said, don't smoke them reefers. I knew she didn't smoke no weed.
Yeah. Yeah. I was out there in the streets.
She didn't know the lingo.
I'm sorry, she didn't know the lingo. I was out there in the streets doing anything I was big and bad enough to do. Hanging out with the crowd, trying to fit in. I didn't fit in with the people at Morgan. I was at Morgan at that time.
But they were too bougie.
Yeah, and I didn't fit in with the
How can you be bougie at Morgan?
Well, they were.
That baffles me. I mean, I'm a Morehouse man. How do you go to Morgan and end up bougie?
Well, during that time, they was being bougie because my skin color. Uh,
Oh,
I'm going there.
go ahead. What happened? Tell me about it.
They had what they call a court of beauty, and they were taking pictures one day, and all of the people in that group were fair-skinned students. Uh, I couldn't be there because you can see ain't nothing fair about my skin other than I love the skin I'm in.
Hold up, hold up, hold up. I've heard stuff like this before. You telling me the light skinned people had a pictures only day? They had
That's right.
a
And I'm
pictures
going.
only light
I'm
skin
going
only
in 1957. Absolutely,
at black school.
at black school.
See, I knew it was something. I knew. So some of that mentality still around today.
That's true.
Jack and Jill's,
That's true.
they said they're about AKAs and Kappas.
I know. I know.
If I'm
I don't
wrong,
know
in
how.
my collar where you belong. We got a comment section. Leave your comment. If I'm wrong, in my collar's where you belong. But if I'm right, my best friend from college, his daddy went to Morgan and they went to a party at Howard. And the story goes, the girls at Howard knew they weren't from Howard. And it came out about their complexion. They like, we know you don't go to Howard.
You know.
Maybe we need a book on that about HBCU and interracial racism. My
Well,
mama was as light as they come. My daddy was as dark as they come. I don't play that. I don't care what flavor you are. It's all in how you treat people.
you know. And I write about that in my book as well. You asked me why did I write it? I wrote it because I think that I wanted people to realize, when they see Barbara Robinson, a retired senator and author, and
I see a gangster.
yeah. But I want people to know the road it took in order to get there. It wasn't smooth, but it was mine, and I traveled it the only way that I knew how, and I didn't do too badly. I like who I am. Uh, and I think the way that I traveled my life's journey to me has made me a better person because, I've danced the tango on in the streets in Argentina. I've eaten in Shima in Africa.
Where's Shima? Where's Shima?
In Shima. As a matter of fact, well, it's made out of millet meal.
Oh,
And
oh, oh. But
it's
where
one of
were you?
yeah.
Where
And
were you?
where was I? In Africa, in Zambia, Lusaka, Zambia.
Zambia.
Uh, in Zambia, yes,
Southern Africa. Okay.
yeah. I went there to train women business owners, and I preached a sermon when I was there.
You a preacher?
No, but they asked me to deliver a sermon, and I did at Bethel AME Church in Zambia. And I was at Ebenezer AME Church in Zambia, and because I lived with a family there.
You
Uh,
lived in Africa?
excuse me, I was there for a month living with a family, and I came back and I went back the second time. Well, I went there to do training, as I said, and I did in a little school. It was in the back of a church actually, and the ground was dirt, and we were in training by candlelight. It was the most rewarding experience. And these were women. Uh, one of the women said, we helped build a hospital and we will help build a school. And that's exactly what they did. There were so many women there that had hobbies. And I wanted to train them how to turn those hobbies into businesses. Absolutely. And that's exactly what happened. First, I had to get the males there because the male saw me as this American lady.
You were a threat.
Yeah, this American lady is coming in and trying to tell
Now,
our women what it is that they should be doing. Uh, I was
but,
on
but,
television
but,
there, and
maybe you were more like an African queen because they had warrior queens throughout Africa.
when I lived with a family, and the husband was an engineer, and the wife was a nurse, and they lived in this beautiful house with a swimming pool in the backyard, and even had servant quarters, which were also black, that lived on the premises. Now this is in Lusaka, Zambia. And we also visited individuals who lived in huts and whole families, 12 and 15 people in one hut. So we went from one extreme to the other. You went from someone living in these gorgeous homes in one part of Africa. So when people think of Africa as being these woods and people, uh, not being trained or not being educated, that's only part of what Lusaka is about. There's so many different ways. There's even a farm that we visited there, a 15-acre farm that the AME churches own, where they grew oranges on this farm. So there's just so many different things that was the reason we wanted to go back the second time, because there's so many things that really didn't get a chance to.
And you're right there. I mean, you got Angola, you're surrounded by Zaire, Tanzania. I was in Tanzania, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Namibia.
Yeah,
That's where mankind started,
that's right.
literally.
That's right. That's right. Great, 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 great rewarding experience. And to be there and to see these people in the house where I live, they had Bible study in their home every week. Uh, they were just a great group of people. Haven't been back yet, but I'm going to Nigeria. When we had the pandemic not been here, not hit America, not hit globally, we would have been there last year, but or we would have gone this year, and also to Mauritania. I worked with somebody there to start a school in Mauritania. So somewhere there, my
That's
name.
Africa. That's up by Western Sahara and Senegal,
Yeah,
Mauritania.
that's right. That's right. So that's why I say that I'm enjoying who I am, because I get a chance to do all of these things that I couldn't do when I was under restraints and constraints in the General Assembly. You
Have you
know,
been to Egypt?
I'm sorry, have I did
Egypt.
what?
Have you seen the pyramids?
No, I haven't been to Egypt yet. Yet.
That's where I want to go next. I want to see those pyramids. I want to see the Ankh and Isis, Osiris, Horus. You know, the original Trinity. That's where everything started, religion-wise.
I've been to Turkey, Istanbul, Turkey. I've been to Korea. I've been to Mexico, Argentina, Spain, Italy, London. I've done a lot of traveling, and uh, I've seen things that most people only read about, and I've seen things people dream about, and my life has been, and still is, actually, as my son says, "Ma, I don't know why you say my life has been, because you still standing, you still traveling,
What
and
country had the best food?
I'm sorry."
What country had the best food?
Which country had the best fruit? Africa, to me. The steaks in Argentina were to die for. You could get a steak and a whole dinner for $10 in Argentina.
They got a lot of cows there. They big on cows,
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
cattle.
they. But I just felt so at home in Africa, And it was always like we went to different people home and they were inviting us in almost every day. And different people were cooking different things in order for us to enjoy their food or to get familiar with their food. Uh, Although Korea, the food was good as there too, because we also visited different homes, and so many different people prepared different foods for us. So I guess it all depends on what you like, really. Yeah.
I enjoyed the Mediterranean. They have a unique diet there in the Mediterranean. A lot of olives, a lot of lamb, uh, goat cheese. And when I was in the Middle East, they cooked chicken in a hole. They built a hole in the ground, and the fire was down in the ground. So it was almost like some pressure cooked, marinated. It was good. That chicken coming out the ground was good. Now the chicken in Africa, let me tell you, it was a different kind of chicken in Africa, baby.
It was. Yes, it was.
It was
Because
different.
it was. And when I was there with a friend of mine who's a pediatrician, and she went there to talk with them about health for their children. And she and I lived together. We shared a room in a home, the Chintus, with the name of the people where we lived. And so one day we wanted to, they had their servants taking care of them. So one day we wanted to cook dinner for them. So we told them that we would fry chicken for them. So the only chicken that we could find, they brought us to fry, was a rooster. So we had fried rooster. And they thought it was the best thing that they ever had, because they had not had chicken cooked that way, American style, as they called it. So it was actually an extremely rewarding experience. One of the things that I did not like, I walked in the house one day and I smelled this. I thought it was an unpleasant smell.
What, chitlins?
No, they said that they were having what they call bush meat. And I said, what is bush meat? And they said, whatever we find in the bush, that's what we cook. And that's what they cooked, bush meat. I didn't know what it was, but I had to at least taste it, because if I did not, I would have been disrespecting the people in the house. Uh, it was a tremendous experience.
I ain't trying to disrespect y'all, but I ain't eating it either.
Oh, well.
Y'all might want to find me a Holiday Inn for the night.
I did.
Okay, come on, get to the dirt. What's in the book?
Wow. The book talks about, through it all, I start with before I worked in the court system, when I worked at the Venetian Blind Company, when I worked at Raleigh Manufacturing Company. I talked about sexual harassment. People now talk about the Me Too movement. That started my Me Too movement, when, in order for me to do anything or to progress in these two places, I talked about Snelling and Snelling Employment Agency, when I worked there, and how I fought off white males, actually. In order to do so and so, you needed to sleep with them, and because I did not or would not, I was had a difficult time, and so many times I left because I would not. I didn't sleep my way to glory. I earned every step of the way. I talk about when I first started in the court system. People don't know Doris Brody. Her name at that time was Doris Brody, but when she died, it was Doris Harris. She and I integrated the restroom in the court system. I talk about me starting Black women being able to wear the natural hairstyle to work in the court system.
What year was it?
This was in 1966. And women being able to wear slacks in the court system. And I talk about how that started because at that time I was just an employee. You know, we could stand on the ladder. Well, we had to stand on the ladder to get supplies from the supply room, and we could wear short dresses where men call themselves holding the ladder for us, but we couldn't wear slacks. And I talk about when I challenged the system and started wearing slacks. And when Judge Sweeney, who's passed now, but he was the chief judge of the state of Maryland at the time, he stood with me and put in a bill, put in regulations where we could wear slacks to work. I talk about that. I talk about being the first woman to head the traffic division in Maryland. I talk about being the first woman deputy administrator of the district court, the Supreme Bench, which is now the circuit court. And I also talk about racism, sexism that was rampant during that time, and how I would go to work, and there would be where there was actually a noose on my desk and a note written across an article that was in the Sun paper that said that this happened to nigger women too. Or I'd go to work and the phone ring and I pick the phone up and someone, good morning, nigger. Merry Christmas, nigger. You know, I was called that so often that I thought that they thought that was my first name. And this was in the, when I started in the municipal court.
And these are white people who work for the government.
That's right. That's right. I
Any of them
started.
still alive today? Because we can go pay them a visit.
You know what?
I don't mean nothing violent. I mean, we just do a Facebook Live right in front of their house, like they was doing out there at Vince's Crab House.
When I was inducted in Maryland Women Hall of Fame, I had wanted one of the people that was one of my nemesis when I was at the court system to be there to see that nothing you did could stop me from becoming who my destination is, who my assignment is. God has said, this is what I want you to be, and there's nothing you could do to stop that. I talk about all of that stuff in this book. And I also talk about starting a business, even discrimination in business, again, with the somebody who works for the government, when they use that term and said, those niggas making too much money. And they were talking about me and two other Black women. I talk about that in this book. I talk about racism in the district court, racism in when people are trying to advance as entrepreneurs, and when you are going after a contract and you're fighting, trying to get a contract, and those who don't look like you are trying to keep you from getting a contract. I talk about in federal government when I went to get a contract and when I didn't hear from them. I used to go to a pre-bid meeting, but I also go to a debriefing. I wanted to find out why I wasn't selected for a certain contract. And this was with a federal agency. And when this federal agency told me that I wasn't considered because I made too many errors in my proposal. And I said, too many errors, how? And they said too many grammatical errors. Well, I knew that was a lie because I used to teach English. So I said, show me. So she couldn't show me. And I wrote about that in the book where they said, well, let us go back and look at this again. I write about that.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. If it were not for that racism, could you be even richer, more accomplished?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
they owe you reparations.
You know, when I look at where I am and how good I feel in my skin, and I look at some of those individuals who were discriminating against me, even in business.
God broke ugly.
When I was a senator, I would go to, they would have dinners, and they would paying for dinners for me and other senators who were in my committee, and kept saying and tried to say, I knew you when you were in business, and you were, now they're trying to bond with me because they are still working. They're still trying to be, they're trying to reach there someday. And they weren't all white. You know, they weren't all white. You had some blacks in there as well.
Bobby Seale says on this show all the time that blacks can be white supremacists too.
That's exactly right. Because some of the people that I was fighting were not all white people. You know, some of them looked just like me. Some of them, the skin was darker than mine, but you couldn't tell them that.
Harriet Tubman said, I freed 1,000 slaves. I could have freed 1,000 more if only they knew they were slaves.
That's it. That's it. You know, I can remember, you know, going to businesses, and I'm sitting there trying to defend me, trying to defend my company and what it was that we wanted to do. But I was defending myself against those who look like me, who said that I should not be in business. Those individuals, I like to see them now. But I went in business in the basement of my home. And when I left, when I got out of business, I had made millions. I had 162 people on my payroll. No, I had done what it was that I wanted to do on my
That's
own
huge.
terms.
That's
Yeah,
huge.
yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And you know who helped me become successful in business? Ray Haysbert
You
and
ain't even let me answer.
Walter Dean.
I knew the answer.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I knew the answer.
What was the answer? I mean, what was the question?
Who was a big help to you in business? Raymond V. Haysbert Sr.
That's right. That's right. Ray
Tell me
and I,
about Mr. Ray.
Ray even started a training session that he called The Edge up
The
at Park
excellent.
Circle
Yeah.
Business Center, where
Him and Wanda.
he and Wanda Williams, right?
Have
Charles
you
Simmons.
seen her?
She is in, she was in Texas, I believe. She wasn't doing too well at all. Her mother flew there to be with her because Wanda wasn't doing well at all. Wanda and I, along with other people from Sojourner Douglas, went to Nassau, Bahamas to
For the
do,
new school.
right. And I did training there for Sojourner Douglas. Charlie Simmons and I go way, way back. He wasn't Dr. Simmons then. Charlie and I used to hang on the corner together down at Merlin, Saratoga. And every once in a while I remind him of that. I was living in the projects at the time.
What was that, Maryland and Saratoga?
Maryland and Saratoga, Bernie's Cocktail Lounge. I-83, I think it is. Not 83, Martin Luther King's Boulevard runs through there now. But Merlin, Saratoga, Bernie's Cocktail Lounge. Up the street from that, there was another, I can't remember the name of it now, but during that time, that was where we hung out. You know, wherever we went, we always came back there. That was during the time when I was hanging in the street with the best of them.
I got you.
And I was living in Flatcourt Projects at the time.
East Baltimore.
Absolutely.
Okay, so did you ever tell me the transition from Alabama to Baltimore?
I talk about that in my first book too. I talk about how I Alabama is my home. That's where I was born. I went to school in Columbus because that's where my stepfather and my mother lived. So during school year, I'd go to Columbus, Georgia, and I would go to school there, Spencer High School. And as soon as school was out in the summer, I'd go back home. And back home is Alexander City, Alabama. So when I graduated from Spencer, and I talk about that as well. I talk about that in my first book, And Still I Cry. I thought I had, yeah. I talk about that in this book.
Did you like miss your family?
I did. I talk about my stepfather. I call him Frank, but his name was Flutie, uh, because I didn't even want to mention his name in this book. I talk about how it took 24 hours for me to get from Georgia to Maryland during that time on the train because we stopped at every stop there was. And I talk about not having any money. And when I got to when I got to Baltimore, I had $1. The cab took me to Morgan for 90 cents, left me with 110 cents. And I still hadn't gotten any of my baggage because the conductor they had hidden my suitcases. I bought my suitcases from a pawn shop, and I bought all of the men neckties that they had at this pawn shop, and I made a rope out of those neckties, and I tied them around my luggage to hold my luggage together. And I talk about that in that book. I also talk about getting up, going to the bathroom, and that was during the time when women was wearing what we call crinoline slips. And I had on a crinoline slip, which made my dress stand out wide. So when I got up to go to the restroom on the train, the heel of my shoe caught in my dress, and it ripped it all off the waist. And so the conductor got safety pins for me to put in my dress. So by the time I got to Morgan, I was riding also in a part of the train where there was no air conditioning. But during that time, it was blacks and whites. We didn't sit in the same uh, car, in the same train, on the train as white folks sat. So where I was sitting, where colored sat at the time, there was no air conditioning. So all of my makeup had sweated off, and there was no wigs. Naturally, my hair had sweated back. We were going getting hairdo at that time. And by the time I got to Morgan, I'm standing there with my raggedy suitcases, my dress held up with safety pins, all of makeup and everything gone. And a cab driver asked me, uh, I asked him how much would he charge me to go to Morgan? And he says, "Little girl, where are you coming from?" And I just started crying. I said, "Alabama and Georgia." And he says, "Well, anybody that have enough guts to come here looking like that, then I will take you to Morgan for 90 cents. That left me 10 cents to call back for my trunk that hadn't come yet. And so I went to Morgan for 90 cents that he charged me that. And when I did get my trunk, in Truth Hall in the basement was where all the suitcases were kept. And I couldn't get my luggage down there because I wasn't strong enough. So I just stood at the top of the steps and just gave it one good push and let it all fall down the steps. Everything burst open, clothes everywhere. And I didn't know that I was supposed to wait for a permit to register. I had no permit to register, so they didn't have a room for me at Morgan. So they got a place for me to live at 912 North Gilmore Street at a woman called Hawkins. Miss Hawkins, I never will forget. I talk about that in the book too, because I was living with Miss Hawkins, but I was living in a room and sleeping in a bed with another person from Morgan. We didn't have twin beds. We were sleeping in a bed together. And when she wouldn't let me come in the house, and I talk about that also. I moved from there to Druid Hill Avenue, uh, in a place in a woman's house, Miss Hughes, Dr. Hughes. I talk about that in my book, and still I cry. And those are things that people use as excuses for not succeeding in life. But I used those as stepping stones, because it was like people were trying to say that I would never amount to anything, only because my mother was an alcoholic. And my mother was an alcoholic. She didn't just drink and go to sleep. When my mother got drunk, everybody in the neighborhood knew it, because she got out there in the street and cussed out everybody in the neighborhood. And they used to call me old drunk Louise's daughter. I talk about all of that. And now I said, and as I said, it took 18 years for me to get my bachelor's degree, but now I have degree from Johns Hopkins University, University of Baltimore, Coppin State University, and 19 certificates from University of Maryland, Earned Power, and so many others that I've earned along the way. And when I speak now, I said, yeah, you called me old drunk. And I'm still old drunk Louise, his daughter. But how do you like me now? Because I didn't let any of that define me.
I want to talk to you about these clothes in this suitcase that was tied together with the neckties.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting the impression, Senator, that you had a lot of clothes.
I've always had a lot of clothes.
Well, aren't you supposed to travel light?
No. On a train, you travel the way that you want to travel.
So you were that lady in the movie that had like 2 trunks of clothes.
That's right. That's right.
Like five guys carrying bags of hats and all that. That was you.
Well, nobody could carry anything because I couldn't afford to pay them. So I had to do my own. I couldn't afford a red cap.
Oh, you also said the bags were so heavy you couldn't lift them up.
That's right. When we got to Morgan, that's right. When I got to Morgan, I could not lift the bags to take them downstairs at Truth Hall.
How many clothes did you have, Senator?
I've always loved clothes. And in order to get clothes, I had to work for them. As I said, my mother was an alcoholic and I was abused by my father.
Yeah.
I worked as a maid every summer, and would save money. And you know what? They used to call me the layaway queen, because I put clothes on layaway and pay for them. And I've always been great on wearing nice clothes. Still today, I love clothes.
Well, all I'm saying is if you had fewer clothes, you might have been able to lift up the bag yourself.
Nah.
All right, come on. I need some dirt out this book. Who is the dirt? You talking about Mike Miller? You bust him upside the head?
I don't talk about Mike Miller, because actually Mike Miller was pretty good to me. I hear so many things about him, but when I was a senator, Mike, I didn't have any problems out of Mike. What I do talk about is the campaign in 2018.
Tell me about it.
And I mention names in here. I talk about Antonio Hayes when I ran against him in the 2018 campaign. And don't get me wrong, he's a very smart young man. He's a very intelligent young man, but he's a very disrespectful young man. And I say that because, as I said, when I was in business, I fought racism so long that it took me so long in order to get contracts when I was in business. And one of the people that was given contracts said those niggers making too much money. And I was one of those women. And there were three of us, three black women. They successfully closed down one of the women, Shirley Moorhead. Autumn Homes was her company. So that left Self Pride Incorporated, which was my company, and it left Evelyn Cunningham, which was Starflight, which is out in Columbia. So when we actually became successes, the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, under DDA, Developmental Disabilities Administration, the Department of Labor, all came together to force me into bankruptcy. My attorney, Neil Janey, asked me, he said, have you gone out of the country and were you involved in drugs or smuggling or anything? And I said, no, because they brought 9 attorneys from Philadelphia to Baltimore to fight this little black woman and try to close me down, force me into bankruptcy. The arbitration judge said, we don't know if you are an Oprah Winfrey or a Martha Stewart. So don't try to fight us because your pockets are not deep enough. And if you will give us your building, then we will leave you alone. And the building is a building that I owned downtown. It used to belong to Jackie and Jimmy McLean. They operated the Four Winds and Seven Seas Travel Agency from that building. I bought that building from Jackie and Jimmy. That was the headquarters of my business.
I love Miss Jackie.
I love Jackie as well. I love Jackie as well. Jackie is actually when I first started in business under Star, my first company was Star, and Jackie had an office up at Park Circle, and I sat in her office one day, and she said, "It's time for you to take your business on the road." At that time, I was doing training and development. I had been doing training for so long. I had training programs when I was with the court system. The Sun paper called it the first in the nation, because every time they would for a promotion, they would promote a white employee, and they always saying that they couldn't find a qualified black. And I said, well, where did you look?
Still doing that today?
Well, I wrote training programs and would have the training programs after I was in the court system. And it's Clarence Mitchell, they call it Clarence Mitchell Courthouse now. At that time, it was Courthouse East and Courthouse West. And at that time, also CCB backed me, Community College of Baltimore. It wasn't BCCC, it was CCB. They backed me with the program that I worked. Tilden at that time was, he's gone now too.
Charles Tilden.
Yes, yes. He came and sat down with me, and I showed him the agenda that I wanted to use to train blacks to get jobs in the court system. And not only were they employees, I did all that free. As a matter of fact, I even sold the books free. Everything, I did the administration free. All I wanted was for black people to be in positions to get jobs or be promoted into jobs. And these were people who worked for the police department, people who worked in the court system. It didn't matter where these people worked, as long as they came in and went through training. And that's how a lot of them, because court clerks, court reporters at that time were getting a lot of money, but there weren't any black people as court reporters. And they were kept saying because they weren't qualified. So I sat with them and tried to find, well, what would qualify them? And that's when I wrote the agenda. CCB came in and paid the judges. And that's another thing that I talk about in this book, because some of the judges would not teach the courses unless they were paid, except Judge Bell. Judge Bell came in and he taught courses when I was at the district court. And Flossie Desmond, Dr. Desmond, who's AKA, and she was one of the professors up at Coppin. She walked me through how to do this. So Dr. Desmond and Judge Bell are the ones that actually got that training program off the ground, because so many of the judges there would not train, would not do anything unless they were paid a certain sum. And they also told me that the court system was not for training, not for teaching. The court system was for trials, you know. But I was they called me a trailblazer. Uh, um, I didn't know my place. And I talk about that so often in this book as well, where so many times they told me that I didn't know my place. I didn't know my place at the court system. I didn't know my place in the circuit court. I didn't know my place in the Supreme Bench. And I felt my place was where it should be. And I also talk about when I was deputy administrator of the Supreme Bench, I was the first woman and the first Black in history of the court system to have those positions. But I would not be a spook that sat by the door. And the only reason I took that position is because Judge Bell talked me into taking that position, because he said that they couldn't reach another Black. And that was the only one. And they wanted me to be able to make history. And even the court clerk, which is clerk of the court now, where it started with Sandra Banks, the judges, the Black judges had recruited me to take that position. At that time, it was called super clerk, to take that position. But had I taken that position, it meant that I would have to leave the position where I was, deputy administrator of the Supreme Bench. And this is when the Supreme Bench became the circuit court. I would have to leave that position, and they wanted to give that position to a white woman that they had been grooming to take it, Mary Wadomsky.
Okay,
And
so
if I
Senator,
had help, yes.
we only have a few minutes, but I gotta get to this question.
Uh-huh.
What do you think of those people who keep pushing racism today, like the Capitol on January the 6th? What do you think when you turn on your television January 6th and you see Trumpsters scaling the Capitol walls? And then, you know, with all that you've seen from Africa to Asia to America, what's wrong with these sick, racist people? What's wrong with them?
You know, the more we change, the more we stay the same. One of the things when I was in Turkey, I was at this place, we were sitting on the steps, and I didn't know why these people were standing around us. And when I said us, it was me and Senator Shirley Nathan Pulliam. And one of the women walked up and said, because we've never seen a Black, no, we've never seen a person like you except on television. And when we say a person like you, and they say a person of your color. So in some parts of the world, people have still not seen Blacks.
Are you serious?
Absolutely.
You're serious?
Absolutely. I'm totally serious. Totally
How?
serious.
Well, I mean, how? How do you not see Black people?
Well, that is exactly what we said. How? And they said we have never seen, and they didn't say Black because they didn't know what to call us. You know, and I was I was in the House of Delegates at the time, and Shirley Nathan Pulliam was senator, and we went over there as legislators, and we were treated royally, actually. But when we were sitting on these steps, these people did not know who, as a matter of fact, one brought her little girl, a child there, looked like she maybe 9, 10, something like that. My daughter has never seen one of y'all. You know, and that's still today. And so when I looked
One of
on
y'all.
January the 6th, yeah, one of y'all. when I look at the people of January the 6th, and it took me back because the majority of the people there were white. And when you compare that to George Floyd, when you look at the majority of the people there, black, we didn't destroy the White House. We didn't go up there and destroy history. Yet you call us heathens. Yet you call us people who don't know their place.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me tell you. I want to share this with you.
Mm-hmm.
When I look in my back alley in
Uh-huh.
Sandtown,
Mm-hmm.
and I see white people out back shooting dope,
Yeah.
maybe I should take a picture of that and give it to you so you can take it to this lady who never seen black people before. Because we see them. And we
Yeah.
see them at North and 83. Actually, I'm very insulted.
You were insulted. I was insulted because I'm the one was on the brunt of that venom. Yeah. Yeah.
The audacity.
Yeah. The audacity. Yeah. Barack wrote, "With the audacity of hope, this is the audacity of shame." And that's what I saw on January the 6th, the audacity of shame. And that's what it should be.
I guess that's your new book. I guess that's your new book, The Audacity of Change. So look.
The audacity of shame. Yeah.
The audacity of shame.
Yeah.
Hold your book up and let's do a nice plug. I want you to say everything you want to say, because I'm not going to have your daughter down here threatening me no more.
This book talks about racism in the court system. It talks about racism in my business. And it also talks about, one of the things that when I see people going after Marilyn Mosby and they calling it a witch hunt, that's exactly the way that was when I was in business. And when the Department of Labor, when Department of Health and Mental Hygiene with Department of DDA, Developmental Disability Administration, tried to close me down, not because I didn't know what I was doing, because I was doing a fantastic job, because I made a whole lot of money. But during the 2018 campaign, they circulated a letter in my opponent's campaign saying that I did not like people on welfare. I was on welfare for 12 years. That I lived in the projects for 12 years, and I was on welfare. And when I talk about those type of things that happened to me, and for someone to circulate a letter and say that I didn't like people in the projects. I lived in the projects for 12 years. I was on welfare for a year, I think. I'm not sure how long it was, but I remember standing on Green Mile Avenue with powdered milk and powdered eggs and government cheese, etc. I write about that. I write about when people vandalized my signs and wrote liar, because I went to bat for when Freddie Gray, during the Freddie Gray tumultuous times, and some of the stores were burned and looted. And when I talk about those type of things in this book, and I went to the aid of someone who was beaten and store looted in that riot. When I talk about that, somebody circulated a letter and said that I didn't like certain people. That disturbed me because I had spent so many years fighting for people on welfare to go through training to get off of welfare in order to lead their own lives, to be who they wanted to be. I talk about that in this book. And as I said, I talk about my opponent, who is Antonio Hayes, who was, he's a smart young man, but he's a disrespectful young man, because so many years I worked in order to uplift the Black race, uplift women in business. I started the Greater Baltimore Black Chamber of Commerce. I'm one of the founders with Ray Haysbert and Lou Fields in Barry Hampton. I started the State of Maryland Black Chamber of Commerce with some of the people uh, from Central Maryland, from Southern Maryland, down in Mike Miller's neck of the woods. We started those type of things to help Black women, to help minority businesses, and to send out information and say that I don't like those type of people, to me is disrespect, because I was doing all of this before he was born. My fight started back in 1957. In 1966 is when I was integrating the restrooms. And I'm going through the early 80s is when I'm fighting through the court system. And it disturbs me. This young man was born in 1978. By 1978, I already had earned a master's degree in criminal justice administration from Coppin State University. So it troubles me that someone, when you talk about taking the baton, I think that we as people, as trench fighters, as people who started long time ago and set the bar for those coming behind, we should pass the baton to those coming behind. I agree. But in order to pass the baton, those taking the baton need to know what they're taking and why. When I became a senator, I went to Kathy Pugh and asked her, what are some of the bills that you put in that you didn't get a chance to see to go all the way through? What is it that you didn't get a chance to finish that you would like for me to finish for you? What are some of the things that I need to do in order to carry your legacy on? So instead of finding out some of the things that I did when I was a senator, why would you start from nothing, or start from building a new mousetrap instead of taking the one that I started on to be the best that it can be? Because when I started, and Wayne Frazier can tell you how I fought, and it was House Bill 48 back in the day when I was a delegate, when I fought to for
Okay,
the
put that
government.
up there. We can see that.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we need to see you.
Need to see me. Okay.
Yeah.
When I fought for the governor to separate 501c3 nonprofits from profits, because when the governor at that time came out and said we had $800 million in minority business, for minority business, we had so much money over here. They were talking about places like Emerge and Kennedy Krager and 501c3 nonprofit organizations. They were talking about these type of organizations. Well, a 501c3 nonprofit is not a minority business by sheer definition of what a minority business is. So when I put in a bill to separate, and I'm not saying that nonprofits are not important, because I operated a nonprofit. Self Pride Incorporated was a nonprofit. I operated Bumar LLC with my son and my daughter. I operated Star Associates Inc., which was a for-profit company. So I understand all of that. Plus, I've taught business development at 3 different colleges in Maryland. I taught at Dundalk Community College, Anne Arundel Community College, and Catonsville Community College. Actually 4, because I also taught at CCB. So I taught how to start a business.
All right, so I want to get to this.
All of that.
I want to get to this.
Mm-hmm.
Are you healed?
Am I healed from what?
the past?
The only thing that I was trying to be healed from was to be healed from losing my husband of 47 years. And I moved out of my house and took an apartment down at Symphony Center. And I stayed there for 7 years, trying to deal with me, trying to deal with being on this earth without my soulmate. So when I was able to move back into my house, that I call healed. That's the only thing that I need to be healed from. Be healed from that, and being healed from my childhood of being drunk Louise's daughter, of being molested by my stepfather, being beaten by my stepfather. So when I was able to write And Still I Cry, I used to write to heal. Now I write for the sheer joy of writing. So being healed from that, those are the only two things that I needed to be healed from. And to answer your question, I am healed from those.
What's next?
I'm going to keep writing. I love writing. I write on paper towel, toilet tissue.
I mean, I want to see like 100 little girls become writers, at least from seeing this interview, from seeing your books. I want to see so many women writing their story.
And I would hope they did. I'm on the board of directors of the Black Writers Guild. And I talk about that, and actually individuals could join the Black Writers Guild, because this Saturday, they meet the first Saturday of every month up at the library on the, what's that, Edmondson Village. And this Saturday, they have young writers. And these are young writers that are 9, 10, 15 years old. Not only are they young writers, some of them are youngpreneurs, as they call. Black Enterprise Magazine flew me to Tennessee to do a workshop for youngpreneurs, as they call. And these were individuals who, in my class, these were young people who were 15, 16, 17 years old, and talking about making $100,000 and $200,000. One was youngpreneurs and teenpreneurs. And, I met a young woman who was, actually, she was 15 years old and her partner was 12 years old. And she had two businesses, as she said. She gave me her business card. One business, she provided parties for young people, for kids 1, 2, and 3 years old. She organized the planned parties for them. And her second business was to make party favors to give out at those parties. I mean, these are young people. So there's no reason that young people who are 15 and 16, as a matter of fact, when I was a senator and when I would have the minority business night in Annapolis, some of the catering was done by a young girl who had a business making cupcakes. So all of these things that we as people, there's so much inside of us. If we would just get out of our own way and realize that we can do whatever it is that we want to be if we just listen to what God has said for us to do. Every time, anything that I've ever done in life was when somebody said I couldn't do it.
I know the feeling. Tell me I can't do something and you
That's right, and I'm going to find a way to do it.
Yeah, just to prove you wrong.
That's right. That's right. Success is the best revenge you can give to anybody. And I think that I have done extremely well. And I am so in tune to who and where I am now, because as I said, this is the first time that I've been able to do me. When I was growing up, I had to follow my mother and my stepfather's rules. When I was at Morgan, I had to go by their rules. When I was in business, I had to follow the rules of my subcontractors or my contractors, etc. Or proposal writers, etc., etc. When I was with the Maryland General Assembly, I had to, under the auspices of the Ethics Commissioner or the Board of Elections. Now I'm in a position I can do what I want, say what I want, and I am so glad to be on Barbara's time. And what am I going to do? I'm going to write. I'm going to travel, but I'm also going to start my podcast starts next week, and I'm doing a podcast once a month for Nigeria, and it's going global. I'm doing a podcast, Straight Talk with Barbara Robinson. I got so much information on my computers that I could go on and do a podcast for the next 5 years and still wouldn't go through some of the stuff that I've already done because I've been writing for so long. I've been writing and just putting things back. And, I have boxes. And I'm in my home office now, and I have boxes here of things that I have written. I'm going to get back. I'm going to write a children's book. I'm going to
You
write.
don't have any children's book thus far?
I have it already written. I have not published it yet. But yeah, I have it written. Yeah. I'm not going to give you the name of it.
We can do that to you. I
Yeah.
know the feeling. You got to copyright it first. I understand.
I'm going to write a
I
children's
really,
book.
I want to see that. I really want to see that.
Yeah. I'm going to write a children's book. I'm going to write another romance novel. I have a romance novel out. It's called Love's Second Chance. That was a book that I put out before I put out this one. That was book number 7, I believe. I'm going to write another romance novel. I'm going to write a murder mystery. My publisher asked me, what do you want to be known as? Because I've done a book on entrepreneur. I've done I've done a novel. I've done my memoirs. I've done a book, Some Days Now, when I talk about how good God has been to me and what he has done to this old sinner when I knew that I didn't deserve it, and he knew it too, but he blessed me anyway. I talk about, I have one book out, Mind Bungee Jumping. I think that's number 5. And that contains 54 original poems and 2,000 motivational quotes. My book number 6 is called Bend in the Road. I wrote that. That's reinventing yourself after the death of your loved one. I wrote that one after my husband passed. And I talk in that about how I got over the hurdle of losing my soulmate after 47
How
years.
did
I'm sorry.
How did you?
How did I lose? How did I get over? I became me. Uh, I found out who Barbara was. I started reinventing myself and becoming a person.
So you were feeling sorry for yourself at first?
I really was. I was feeling sorry for myself. And I always thought that I was a very strong woman. After coming through all of the things that I had come through in the court system, I thought I was a real strong woman.
But
But when I
love,
lost my husband, I went into a spiral downhill that you wouldn't believe, feeling sorry for myself. Uh, because, regardless of what I went through when he was alive, he was always there for me to fall back on.
what was his name?
His name was Jerome Robinson Jr. Everybody called him Jerry. We'd go to Myrtle Beach every the first week of December because he played in golf tournaments there. He was an avid golfer. I have trophies everywhere where he won playing golf. He's played golf at every golf course around Maryland. And
How you fall in love with him?
how did I fall in love with him? Leaving Morgan. I was
Yeah, all the bags.
no, at that time I was living off campus, and he
Oh, I
was
knew he had to carry some of them bags.
no. I was leaving Morgan one night after studying in Sofa Library on Morgan, and he was leaving Morgan after visiting his girlfriend at that time, who was a junior. And he and I walked to the bus stop. Well, we walked to the bus stop together, and he was carrying albums, Coltrane and Gene Ammons. um, Love Supreme, you know, um, Angel.
Oh,
Oh yeah, oh yeah, Coltrane, Love Supreme, but Angel Eyes, Gene Ammons, and uh, he was. I, we walked to the bus stop, and the rest is history. I know that's right.
Romy, don't you know me? Miss Barbara, we are so proud of you. I'm proud of your spirit. I love what you do for Black business.
I think,
Thank you
but
for your bully daughter who chased me at Park Heights. She chased me straight out of Park Heights. I ain't
I'm
never been chased out of Park Heights, not even Paul McCoy.
I'm working with a group of young people now. As a matter of fact, I want young people to, as I said, get out of their own way. And if I had had somebody in my life long ago, I would not have had to spend so many years hurting, hurting of the pain that I suffered as a child. Uh,
I think you
hurting.
should have a television show because you our own, and I'm not necessarily a fan, but you our own Oprah. You know what I mean? You right here, living, breathing, touching people. I think you probably ought to approach Mario. Just said this on the show yesterday. He approached Channel 2, said, I want to do a show for you because Channel 2 clearly needs some help. Fox, 13, 11, you should have your own show.
I think one of the things also I wrote this book, we have our own hidden figures in Baltimore. People don't know about Mary B. McCrae that actually uh, started accounting system in the court system in Maryland. Nobody knows about her. Sandra Banks, the first court clerk. Sandra and I got together, and she's the reason uh, she we got together for her to take that position so I can stay where I was. People don't know about Doris Brody. She and I integrated the restroom. She was the first Black woman that worked in the court system, and she couldn't integrate the restroom because she was the only one there, and she had to go up against the system by herself. But when I came there, down on Fayette and Falls Way is where the police department was. I-83 runs through there now. She and I integrated the restrooms together. Nobody know about that. They don't know about Gloria Luster from City Hall that helped Black businesses get contracts. And when she retired, she said, child, let me show you how to do it. And she took me down to City Hall and she sat me down and walked me through of how to get contracts through the city. Nobody knows about
Is that
those.
in this book?
Yeah, it's in this book. And I talk about Hattie Harrison. And when
Don't
I
throw
became,
mama from the train.
that's right. And when I became a delegate for the first year, I didn't write in the legislation at all, in the bills at all. I sat underneath Hattie to find out what needs to be done. How can I do it? What can I do in order to help our people? Unlike people now, you just jump right in and you have no clue as to what's needed. And now you're going to start uh, picking on people who actually did do some work. For an example, abuse registry. When I left there, and nobody carried that on, in order to determine if somebody is an abuser before they are hired. I can't tell you how many times under self-pride that I had to fire people because they were abusing people who had mental challenges. We provided services to people who were mentally challenged, mentally and physically challenged. And when I wrote the legislation to say that individuals needed we needed to know that they were abusing people before they were hired, what we found is that individuals be hired by me, they would be abusing people, I fire them. They go and work for you, they abuse people, you fire them. Then
Same
go,
with them
just go
white
all around,
bullies.
right?
Same with
Because
the white.
Nobody is talking to each other, and there's no rules that says that you can't do that. You
Same
know,
thing for them dirty police officers like Derek Chauvin. It should be a national registry. And before they even become a cop, they should have to sign saying, I'm not a racist. And if they turn out to be a racist, you can sue them twice.
you know, when
I
I
think we ought to also be able to dig up racists that are dead and go take their money or their descendants' money for all of the crimes they committed. I'm for reparations, and my name's Donnie Glover. And the only office I will ever run for is governor of the state of Maryland.
you
I don't
can't
want
do
the rest of them jobs, too much work. But governor, oh yeah, I can do that all day long. Executive order, all black businesses get put on right away. Why are we struggling still with black business? Why do I gotta prove? See, that's what this is a whole other show. Why do I gotta prove that I'm black? You know I'm black. You gotta prove that you've been discriminated against. You know, Miss Senator, is as soon as we catch up right here, they move the ball over here. Then they move the ball over here. It's a big damn game. And the black people that support this white supremacy ought to be ashamed of themselves. But okay, we going into the hour and a half mark, and I'm gonna need you to give your final spiel. Are we okay? We good? I ain't got a lot of stuff going down the street tonight, do it?
That's right. That's
Okay.
right. We're great. We're great.
No,
Always, always. I just want to say that individuals who are coming behind me, who are walking in my shoes, who are walking in the shoes of Shirley Nathan Pulliam, who are walking in the shoes of Hattie Harrison. You're walking in the shoes of those of us who went through what we went through so that you would not have to. Spend time working with people who are coming behind you. Because just as I sat on somebody's shoulders in order to become the Barbara Robinson that I am in love with today, there are people that are coming behind you that need to hear from you. And I also want to say, don't disrespect those of us who have fought in the trenches for years. Those of us who went through things that you don't even know about. So respect us for what we have done while we are still here. And if there is anything that I can do in order to help you, all you got to do is my email is Barbara4025 at Verizon.net. And I do intend to, well, we're working on that now, to start an organization called Women Empowered. We, Women Empowered. Because before I left the Maryland General Assembly, I had 1,000 Women of Worth, where more than 500 women came down to the War Memorial in order to listen to things, listen to truths from other women. I want to, just as I started the Greater Baltimore Black Chamber of Commerce, just as I started the minority women group in Philadelphia, in Delaware, in Washington, D.C., and in Virginia, and in Maryland. We used to meet once a month in Lantham, Maryland, for minority businesses. I think that you should start now because we need you. And this is Barbara Robinson. And if I can do anything to help you, all you got to do is call.
Good deal. State Senator Barbara Robinson, we love and respect you. We thank you for your book. And I hope that we touch some people out there. Make them inspired to overcome, to address whatever issues they might be facing. Nothing too difficult for God.
Nothing. Nothing. And my book says through it all, and that's exactly what it is. God brought me through it all. And not only did he bring me through it all, he's still pushing me. I'm still standing. I'm still running. And I love who I am. I wouldn't change it for anything, especially with the pandemic. Have you seen the way that the stalls are in Annapolis? You know, and
Plexiglass.
yes, and you cannot interact with the people, with your constituents.
Did you ever have to work besides somebody that had bad breath in Annapolis?
No.
Yes, you did. All right, I love you, Senator. You have a beautiful day. We getting out of here.
You too, sweetheart. Love you back. And keep on doing what you're doing.
Absolutely. Keep watching BlackUSA.News. We'll be back tonight at 7 o'clock. Donnie Glover out.